Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Stranger Things 3, Chapter 4. It's called the Sauna Test. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, first things first, let's talk about Max's impeccable taste. That is the first thing I want to talk about at the start of this review. Because last season, she drew us in quite quickly. She dressed as the Shape, Michael Myers, for Halloween. Instantly became a bit of a favourite because of that. This episode, we find out she not only likes comics, she has nothing but DC comics, and it's all Wonder Woman and Green Lantern that we see. Max is the best.
Get behind this.
Max is the best. She has impeccable taste.
It's just a fact.
Man, 14-year-olds suck when I was that age. No, in other words, kill as Max. Oh, jeez. But yeah, so there's a bit of a kind of like what happened at the end of the night thing at the start of the episode where it's kind of cutting around. You know, the old lady's going to the hospital from Jonathan and Nancy. Police are there. They're reading comics. You know, Elle's feeling a little bit suspicious still, but Max is like, no, I mean, we found him. He's okay. And, you know, the girl's not dead. So, like, what else can we do?
Yeah.
So, you know, just kind of that. So we come next day. I guess we'll start with the kids first of all. We'll start with the main batch of kids. We have they do reunite after a little bit of because the boys are like, okay, he's back, code red. So they call it in, and when Max gets angry and like shuts off the walkie-talkie, they just phone the house and make it clear. No, seriously, code red. We have to talk about this. So they get together. And they talk about how, and it's actually Will who's like, oh, you know, when he took over me last year, like it was like I was, you know, he got inside me. And sure, we closed the portal, we closed the gate, or Elle closed the gate specifically, but the part that was inside me, is that still stuck in our world? Did that ever actually get to go back? And I'm not gonna lie, this I actually think is a smart little pull on the writing here, because I never considered this, that the part that was in him when the gate was closing.
The reason we never considered it is the same thing they kind of throw out as, well, everything else died when we shut off the gate, you know.
That's
killed
true.
the brain and everything kind of collapsed. So we just assumed that, oh, that bit would have died as well.
Yeah. But of course, I think there's a difference between the demi-dogs and this main, you know, the main flare.
I think we were under the same assumption as them that, oh, everything that wasn't connected kind of died when it was shut.
I like this though. I like the idea that it's been growing and festering like in that factory, and it's only just now come to like power, and that's why everything's happening. Obviously, we still have the Russians up to something. We'll talk more about that later because we got some big juicy stuff on the Russians later this episode. But so as soon as they say, oh, like, it may have a new host, like it's taken over someone else, immediately Elle and Max are looking at each other like, oh shit. Like we may have a candidate.
Yep.
So we get a bit of a little sting operation. Their plot this episode is they're spying on Billy, and they're like, yeah, he's been kind of weird, but he's always weird. He's always a dickhead. You know, what to do. And
I did like, you know, they're like, yeah, but how do you know something's real? I was like, well, have you ever seen him with a shirt on?
That was a funny line actually. And then Mike gets an idea, and he's like, boys only, which annoys the girls at first, but his plan involves getting into the men's locker room to show the other guys, okay, look, he likes the cold, he doesn't like heat. So how about we trap him in the sauna, we'll lure him in here, and we'll turn up the heat. Which, by the way, 220 Fahrenheit, that is pretty toasty, right? Like,
I'll be honest, I have no benchmark for what that is.
Yeah, but like when people talk about it being insane weather, it's always only just over 100. Like, I think the hottest place on Earth's like 150 or 60 or something like that.
Yeah, to us, that's 104.
104 Celsius?
Yeah.
That's over boiling.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that just kill let's just say it's Billy, right? There's no entity in him, it's just Billy. Wouldn't that just kill him?
I guess the defense is they're heating up the steam. It's a steam room, right?
Sure.
So they're heating up the steam to that temperature, not the
room itself. Okay, all right. I'll take that argument, but I'm like, this is reminding me of witch trials here, where it's like, well, she drowned, so I guess she's not a witch, but she's dead. So
yeah, problem solved.
I mean, that's what it's reminded me of. But anyway, so they have this plan, and they're all setting up to get like one of the, you know, the dummies used for practicing CPR. Yeah. And Mike does try to tell Elle about Hopper. And one of my favorite lines of the episode's in this scene. And I did like that Elle brought up I'm a different species, because that's one of the things that he said when she was spying on him. Is like, we were a different species from then. They're like them, and we're like us. I just hang around my own species. But my favorite line in this scene though is when he tries to tell her about Hop. She's like, she says, maybe Hop's right. He's like, no, he's a grumpy old man who hates joy. Just deadpan serious. Not even a hint of a joke in his voice.
Yes, hates joy but loves Joyce.
Yeah, there you go. Hates joy but loves Joyce. That was cheesy as shit. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I am a little bit.
So they set up this whole thing, and they use the walkie-talkie to lure him in with the voice, and it works. And Elle's behind him when he gets in the sauna, and she shuts the door. They chain it up, and
even before she shuts the door, she kind of shoves him right against the wall, like the tiles are cracking.
Oh yeah, it's like that fight scene in the Matrix where every in the subway, where every time they hit the wall, there's just tiles falling off. It's kind of like that moment. But so they turn it up, and he's kind of yelling, and he's angry at the kids, thinking this is some joke. But he's still Billy. He's not quite become, because they established in this episode that even though he's been overtaken, sometimes the thing will just let him be Billy for a while because he's not needed. He'll take over when the occasion calls for it. But of course, eventually he does, and he gets very strong and starts ramming the door until it eventually breaks down. And we get, I would call a very menacing scene here, where he feels really dangerous, where the kids are actually in peril.
Even before he gets out, when he tries to stab Max through the window.
Yeah, because Mike's like, get away from the door. He's like, because Will's like, I can feel something, and it's getting dangerous, and Mike's like, get away from the door. So this is a really fun sequence. It's a really dark sequence because Elle is kind of winning. She picks up the the weights and puts the bar against his neck, and he's got up against the wall. But then he's able to push it off, and he grabs her by the neck, he's got her.
And we're seeing this because the amount that she was pushing it was literally digging into the wall.
Yeah,
and he can still push it off himself. So
yeah, so it's
serious strength going on.
Yeah, he's strong, and he grabs her by the neck, and everyone's shell shocked. And I was like, okay, Mike's going to save her, because this is how he wins her back. He's going to jump in and do something heroic here. And I like that he does, but at the same time, it is kind of futile. Where okay, it distracts him for a moment, but it's not like he made much of a dent.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, Elle kind of then fights back and throws him through the wall to the outside. Which luckily he decides to retreat at this point and not keep trying to kill them. But this is definitely kind of a culmination here, where he really, at this point, he's like, I know who you are. He doesn't say that, but they're looking at each other's eyes. There's a gauntlet has been thrown down.
Definitely, yeah.
So
I mean, this is the midpoint of the season, and
absolutely,
I think it shows here.
Yeah. Every character's aware of everything now. We've cranked the tension up, and I thought this was actually one of the darkest scenes the show's ever done, because it really felt like this strong adult. I mean, who's possessed obviously with a spirit or whatever, but he's picking up kids by the neck who are 14, 15, and they feel kind of vulnerable in a way that, sure, in season 1 there was moments where they felt vulnerable because the scientists were chasing after them or whatever, but I think even more than an actual monster chasing them, this feels even more serious because it's the visual of an adult with his hand around a kid's neck.
It was, and it works coming after the almost moment of sympathy that you had for Billy when when he's in the sauna and he's like,
oh, he's crying,
he's crying. He feels pretty genuine. It doesn't feel like it's the mind flare at this point. It feels like he's going, no, it wasn't me. There's something there that made me do it. Because like we say, he's always been a dick. We've seen that. But he's never been a murderer.
No, he's not been a murderer as of yet.
And Max is there going, "Oh, please don't please don't let him be it."
Yeah, she says that earlier on, and then in this scene, I think you do feel a bit of sympathy because as much as he is a complete prick, he is terrified by what this thing's made him do, and Max looks concerned. And I think because Max has always hated him as well, and Max had to really stand up for herself with him last season, I think her showing concern about him is enough to let us feel like, okay, we can feel a little bit of concern for, but we can at least a little bit hope that he, when this is all over, he gets to be himself again. And hopefully the experience has made him grow as a person, and maybe he's learned a few things along the way. So that's definitely, I'd say, the main plot of the episode. It's the big one that really, and he goes back to the base, and we see that there's a bunch of, I'll just call them red shirts, that are there to be taken over. We know obviously Heather's parents have been taken over at the start of the episode, but that's how we cut to credits at the start, and at the end we see the whole big group of people.
Yeah,
Which
not quite as many as I thought it was going to be, but I mean, it's a relatively small town, so you know.
Well, here's the thing. Because the camera was kind of pulling back through this crowd of people. I thought it was going to end in someone we knew. Like we were going, oh.
Do you know what? No, I did too. I actually thought it was going to be Nancy, given where her plot ended off.
Sure.
And then it didn't. So you know, sure. But that was what I was expecting in the scene.
And I'm still expecting to pull that swerve at some point in this season that someone we're trusting turns out to have been infected. You know, it has been for a while. I can see them pulling that. And if they don't, I'm not saying it's not poor writing if they don't. I'm just kind of expecting it. I'm expecting
it's
it to be
an obvious thing to do at some point, isn't it?
Yeah. So no, that was fun stuff. And we'll jump over to the Dustin, Steve, and Robin plot. Still in the mall, still surveying. Although now they're surveying outside at this entrance to the thing. And Robin, once again, being the brains of the operation, while Steve and Dustin are trying, because Dustin's been doing some surveillance. He's like, okay, so this guy's got a key card to get into the warehouse room, and it's on his belt, and he's got a giant machine gun. And Steve's like, all right, well, I'll sneak up behind him, knock him out, get the key card, and we can get inside. It's as if it's that easy. And Dustin, the kid's like, did I mention the machine gun? Have you ever actually won a fight? He's like, oh, come on, that was one time. Nope. John had to beat you up in season 1 as well. Let's not forget that. So, that doesn't count.
And it's like, why doesn't it count? Of course it counts.
Oh, Robin's got such a smirk in her face during this whole thing as well.
She does.
But she has an idea, and she runs off with the tip money, the tip jar, and comes back with schematics for the building.
Commonly referred to as blueprints.
Yes.
Schematics felt like a weird choice here.
Whatever.
But when it's a building, it's blueprints.
Sure. I mean, I was mixing it up and swapping in a synonym, all right? What do you want from me?
To be better.
What is a building but a big thing you've built? And what do you have for things that you build? Schematics. I mean, it's big enough, you call it blueprints.
Exactly. You call it blueprints, so we should do that.
So what I'm saying is that all blueprints are also schematics, but not all schematics are blueprints.
Now you're just being a facetious dick.
Because you're being facetious and correcting me when there was no correction needed.
Oh, I think there was.
But she points out that there's vents. And do you know what? Even though it plays for the joke and it leads to what they have to do in the episode, movies and TV are so guilty of having air vents that are big enough for people to crawl in. I like that even Dustin can't fit in it. It's like, no, it's a bit small.
As soon as they looked up at it, I'm like, that's a pretty small air vent. I mean, it's a normal sized air vent.
Yeah, by movie
TV,
standards.
Yeah.
By movie standards, it's a small air vent.
Exactly.
And like Dustin, and it's a really funny scene because he's trying to squeeze in, and he's like, "Steve, touch my ass. I don't care. Just push." It is pretty great. And then we just hear it from behind, and Robin turns around. Who's standing at the counter wanting free samples but Erica? So they have to, and Robin clearly gets the idea. It's like, oh, she's smaller.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. So they have to spend some of their plot now convincing Erica to be willing to do this. And there's so much I love about this plot line. So much.
This scene where they're convincing her has maybe one of my favorite lines of the episode.
Is it by any chance you can't spell America without Erica?
It is, but it's not that. It's the bit after where Dustin's there really thinking about it. And he's like, damn it, she's right.
Joe, what I love about that, I think more than anything, is like the line's fine, but it's actually the actress who plays Erica. Her delivery of it makes it work. Like, it could sound really stupid, but she is such a pompous, sure of herself little shit that it just works so well. It's great. Yeah. And then I love that she calls it Operation Child Endangerment.
Her explaining capitalism to them. You're like, look, I feel like that these services are pretty valuable. So free ice cream for life.
For life. I love how when they do make her sneak in the vent, and I love that she's got like flashlights attached to a helmet, like a bike helmet, and knee pads on and stuff. And I love that when she crawls in, and in fact, another line I loved here actually, because at one point she suggests, is there going to be like lasers or traps or anything like that? And when she gets to the vent, just into the room before she goes in, Steve says, "Is there any traps?" And she's like, well, if I could see them, they'd be pretty shit traps.
Oh, Erica is rising in the ranks.
Erica's great. She had like 2 lines last season and they were great. So, I mean, they're doing a good job here of expanding on her a little bit.
Yeah.
And I love how it's completely separate from Lucas as well. Like, he doesn't even know she's involved in anything right now.
No, they had the one interaction in the first episode, and that was it.
Yeah. But no, I dug all this. And I love that. So the point I was making though is that I love that she presses the button, it opens the door, and they're still hiding on the roof of the building, like opposite, the road,
just in case.
And I'm like, you're letting the kid who's like 11, 12, like be the one down there, like in the thick of it, and you're going to stay back for cover in case any Russians show up.
Child endangerment.
Child endangerment, yes. And of course, they open one of the boxes, and it's like a weird green glowing chemical of some kind. Presumably lots of them, but they're in like batches of 4 in this like metal canister kind of thing.
And there's the moment where Steve's opening and he's like, "Hey, Ollie, stand back," and Dustin refuses.
Yeah, if you die, I die.
And Steve just looks and goes, "Whatever, your funeral."
So here's where I get to nerd out a little bit, because the twist here, of course, is that they can't open the door and they hear some noises, and it turns out this thing's a secret elevator, and it goes down quite far, right? And we don't get to see where they land in this episode, but presumably this is the secret Russian lab in town.
Where they were broadcasting from in the first episode,
yeah. So here's what I love about this, right? One of my favourite things in the world is Resident Evil. And what does Resident Evil have but a secret underground lab underneath a mansion? And not only that, once I thought I made this connection, the canisters look very T-Virus-esque.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure it's not a virus. I'm sure it's like energy or like radioactive gunk for their portal.
Yeah, it looks
machine.
like it might be powering something, doesn't it?
I'm thinking like it's basically the plutonium they put for the flux capacitor to get going in their big drill thing, or whatever. Assuming So next episode we're going to get these kids, these teenagers plus a kid, wandering through, and maybe they'll get caught right away, maybe they'll get a chance to snoop around, but they're going to be in a secret Russian lab next episode. I love this turn of events. This is beautiful.
You're so predictable.
You don't like it?
Oh, I do. I just maybe not quite as much as you, because you're going, oh, it's just like Resident Evil. I'm not doing that.
Well, just wait until next season when the portal opens up and they start referring to it as a hellmouth, and vampires start come pouring out, and we need a certain vampire slayer to come fix things. Because what is Elle if not the Buffy of this show? Let's be honest, right? And the rest of the Scooby Gang. That's what this show is.
It's really not. This is a stretch, and you know it.
Yeah, but you forced me. You forced my hand. You're giving me shit for comparing it to Resident Evil, so I'm going deeper into what you hate. Now this was a delightful plotline. Erica was hilarious. All the characters were, honestly. I think what's so impressive about the show is how likable, like 99.9% of the characters are. Like, they're so fun to watch and so engrossing all the time.
Most of them really are.
Writing and performances are just so on point with making these characters lovable. So we'll jump over from here to Hopper and Joyce, mainly because they're investigating the Starcourt Mall to an extent, because when Hopper wakes up, he's Ellie's naked. I say Ellie's injured. You know what I mean. Oh, my TV is going to turn off. I need to lean over. So yeah, he's injured. He's naked. So a couple of laughs from that. With Joyce trying not to look at his pee-pee, but she's like. We get this funny moment where she's like, "Oh, I got the license plate," but she's got maybe the first digit and the last 2 digits and a lot of dashes, and they might be wrong. And he's like, "You know what? Keep the day job, Joyce."
Yeah. But
then the key piece of information though is that it wasn't a car. And he's like, "What do you mean it wasn't a car?" And obviously we've been referring to him as the biker dude. That's who he's been. And he's like, "Oh, I saw him leaving the town hall where the mayor is." So he goes in and beats up the mayor, demands to know what's going on, and it turns out whoever owns this mall, A, they're bad news, as in the mayor's words, and they are buying more land around Hawkins, and they built them all. And of course, because the other kids have found this secret lab, obviously this is who's behind this.
Yeah.
So they're, even though the characters haven't converged yet, it feels like their investigations kind of converging to us. We're getting
They're running parallel.
Yeah, we're getting two sides of it. I did enjoy Joyce keeping the secretary distracted.
I did like the mayor's. She was like, you broke my nose, and you could the secretary go into the phone. She just pulls out the cable and goes, well, you got to phone the police.
That's good. Hopper gets pretty because the mayor does. I mean, he's always been a bit of a smarmy dick from what we've seen of him, but he does get especially bad here. He's like, "Oh, don't give me the dead daughter sob story." I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, Hopper was kind of asking for it a bit. He tried going, "Hey, remember all those things that I turned a blind eye to?" And the mayor's like, "Hey, I can do that too. I've turned a blind eye plenty of times."
Yeah, I mean, he could have just stopped after telling them all the shitty things he's done on the job. The drinking and the
They could have done
whatever else. But so he gets his records from his home, and it's a whole thing. But that was basically what was it Joyce figures out again, because Hopper gets really impressed with Joyce for figuring something out.
Why they're buying all the stuff? Okay. So the power plant, right? So it wasn't the lab that was active, but they're powering this from somewhere, presumably one of the properties that they've bought up. So they go around.
That's right.
Out a bunch of them.
Yeah. So yeah, they're looking around at the end. I don't think they find anything at the end though yet. They're just in the process.
I think so. No, because they check off a couple, and it was all dead ends.
Yeah. So that was that. Nancy and Jonathan get fired because of because we find out that the woman is legitimately schizophrenic and paranoid, and he lists off a bunch of reasons why what he did was wrong, and then fires them. And this kind of makes them have a fight, where Jonathan, he's a bit mean about it, but he maybe has a point where this was a summer internship, and you expected to be getting like your own stories in the paper. Like
he's right, but this is still the most tedious scene of the season so far.
That's fair. Although I actually didn't dislike the scene with her and her mum later on.
No, that was all right.
I think what I liked about that scene is that obviously Karen Wheeler has been, she's kind of not a joke character, but like because it's been all this like flirtation with Billy, and we've been kind of cracking jokes about that. I felt like this was the one scene this season where she really got to like show a bit of character and a bit of acting in a way that was a bit more dramatic. And this idea that she's giving her daughter advice about how shitty the world is, and how you're gonna have to keep putting up with this, and a lot of women give up, but that's not you. Like I felt like I learned something about her and her past just from the advice she gave Nancy, and I thought that was a nice little touch, even if it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't by far the highlight of the episode, but I thought it was a neat scene for that purpose. But she's like, no, okay, don't. She convinces her not to give up. So she goes to the hospital and pretends to be the woman's granddaughter and goes in. But of course, the woman's absolutely freaking out. She's got marks all over her face, and she starts like properly freaking out once the others are reacting. It's just when Billy's getting.
That's the thing. I don't think she is all weird looking at first. I think she's looking relatively normal when she first goes in.
Until Billy starts.
It's when Billy starts going, and then the power starts flickering. That's all going there as a reaction, presumably.
Yeah.
And that's when she starts reacting. It's almost like he's draining her. Like okay, he needs more power, so he's draining from the other hosts.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's kind of how it felt. Like, it felt like he was being beaten, and then he was reacting. He was screaming. He was doing like the rage stuff. And then that's when the power was all going. This woman was freaking, and it felt like she was draining a bit. And then he was like, okay, right. That's when he starts choking out Elle.
Yeah, and it makes sense that the big power cut in the first episode is maybe when he really kind of first formed into a being from the mist that he was or whatever. So they've got like a bit more of an army at the end. So we're definitely going full on sort of body snatchers. To a point, which is great. It's something fun because it makes the kids feel like they're on their own. They can't trust anyone. So
it's a tried and tested idea. Body snatchers, right? We've seen it quite a lot of times at this point, but that doesn't mean it can't be done well. Still, so I got no problem with it.
Yeah, no complaints. Another solid episode. Season's really picking up its pace.
Yep.
Everyone's kind of focused on what the main thing is. So, hard to, and a couple of scenes hard hitting, especially that scene with the kids and Billy at the end. I really felt like that had some proper menace in it in a way that the season's not had so far. So, I will give it props for that. So now I'm looking forward to the rest. So we're halfway through it. Looking forward to episode 5. We'll have that the day after tomorrow. So by all means, let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. If you want to support the show, you can do that on Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month, get some bonuses, extras, and some stuff early. But go and have a look and see everything that's over there. Of course, you can support us in other ways by rating the podcast on your podcast app. If you're on Apple Podcasts or any other app, rate us on there. Look out for other content that we have going up. We have a bunch of shows going up right now. We have Big Little Lies, we have Legion, we have Too Old to Die Young going up. I'm sure there's other things I'm forgetting.
Big Little Lies?
I said that. That was the first one I said.
Did you? Okay.
I'm sure there's another one that I'm forgetting, but you know what? It's fine. There's a lot of TV shows going up right now. So yeah, and all that goes on Twitter at @mailed_fuzz. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?